Hey, family, and welcome back to Love Restored. I am your host, Marshaun Olaniyan. Thank you so much for coming to spend this next 30 minutes with me. We are discussing chapter 10 today. We are finishing up Reignite Your Relationship by 7X. I am super excited for those of you who actually purchased the book, but also who are getting what you need out of it. And today we're discussing the final chapter within the book, which is Keep God First. But before we start discussing the book, I want to tell you who I am and why I decided to start Love Restored. So again, I am Marshaun Olaniyan. I am a shift relationship strategist where I help Black Christian women that are just sick and tired of being sick and tired. What does that actually mean? I'm sick and tired of being on the emotional roller coaster. I'm sick and tired of being in this relationship that seems to be stagnant or not going anywhere at all. I am sick and tired of breakup after breakup, relationship and new relationship after one another, because again, why I started Love Restored, which is most of us did not get the tips, the tools, the strategies, or anything that is going to help us to be in loving, healthy, romantic relationships. See, many of us are really used to, and it has become the norm to witness as well as regurgitate toxic habits and behaviors. Now, a lot of this is things that are subconscious. You're not even aware that you're doing these things. However, we have to be better at becoming more aware and becoming more conscious of how we're showing up in our relationships, how we're showing up in this world, which is going to help us to be better women. It's going to help us to be better men. It's going to help us to be a better Black people, as well as a Black community where each of us are able to come together and teach one, reach one, teach one, and be able to break those generational curses, specifically when it comes to our romantic relationships. And so I started Love Restore as a continuation for us to get the tips, the tools, and the strategies in order to be better human beings, as well as understand how to choose better mates, how to reignite your relationship, especially if you are in a marriage that is stagnant or you feel like it's not going anywhere, or it's just like, I know that this could be better. This is how you improve your relationship in order to change things around. So before I go into Keep God First, which is the last chapter in the book, I want to briefly discuss and just go over just the titles of what we've already covered. So chapter 1 was about love thyself and deal with your fear and baggage. Chapter 2 is happiness is a choice. Chapter 3 is show more love, gratitude, and appreciation towards your spouse. Chapter 4 is be intentional and show respect towards your spouse and the relationship. Chapter 5 is listen as your spouse's friend and do not try to change him or her. Chapter 6 is continue to have a life outside of your spouse. Chapter 7 is spend quality time with yourself in addition to your spouse. Chapter 8 is discuss the relationship expectations. And then in the book, I specifically talk about finance, religion, and children. Chapter 9 is do not focus on your partner's negative characteristics. And today we are going to talk about chapter 10, which is again, keep God first. Now, if you're not a religious person, you still can get a plethora of information from the book. However, I definitely wanted to put in this particular topic I was very intentional about putting it last place, because we as a people have a tendency to seek out God when we have problems versus putting him at the forefront of our brains, where he is our go-to to ask questions, to get the guidance, to get the tools and information that we need by sitting still and listening for his voice. So I intentionally put God first, last in the book, because that's what we have a tendency to do. That's when we have a tendency to reach out to God when we are having issues, when we are having problems. And guess what? We even seek out our friends, we seek out our family members, we even seek out people that we don't know, like strangers, to get their feedback. What are their thoughts on things, versus going to the person, the entity, God, who can actually give you the answers in which you seek. So I intentionally put it last because that's what we have a tendency to do. Now, is this everybody? Of course not, but this is the majority of people. We have a tendency to put God last, and then we wonder why things are unfolding the way that they are unfolding. So now, before I jump into this beautiful topic of today and read the quote, I want to remind you that you are listening to KCCR The Brownstone. Again, I am your host, Marshaun Olaniyan. You are listening to Love Restore on KCCR The Brownstone. And so now that we have that out of the way, let's jump into the quotes that I always read. So keep God first. In the chapter, the quote is, remember to always put God first in your relationship, marriage, and your home, because where there is Christ, your foundation will always remain solid. And that is anonymous. So we don't know who said that. But I really believe this to be absolutely true, which is why I made that statement. If we keep God first, if he's at the forefront of our brains, if he's at the forefront of our marriage, if he's at the forefront of our relationship, then a lot of these trials and tribulations, a lot of these fights and arguments that come into play could really be decreased and just about taken away, because now you have someone that you are seeking guidance from, right? You're able to hear God's voice by you getting still, by going to him in prayer, by being intentional about, this is something that I want to do. This is what's actually happening in my marriage. This is happening with my partner, with my spouse, and having a conversation with God. Your conversation is via prayer. Your conversation could be short, your conversation could be long. But have you ever noticed that the times that you have the longer, or I should say, the conversations where you're very intentional about the thing that you are trying to seek, you all of a sudden get that answer in some shape, form, or fashion. It could be absolutely from another person. It could be from a billboard. It could be from a book. It could be from somebody sending you a social media message. Somehow, some way, you get the answer in which you ask the question specifically for God to answer to you. And guess what? It can even come from a stranger, somebody that's just imparting some wisdom to you in that moment. Those are the times that you can hear God speaking, because you intentionally went to him to ask him a question, and now you got the answer. Right? So remember to put God first, because listen, God has seen me through many trials and tribulations. Many trials and tribulations. And my trials and tribulations are not, or they don't have to be, the exact same of yours. What's for me, my trials and tribulations might not necessarily be the same for you, but he's gotten through so many. So my question to you, and your question to your spouse, if you have not had this conversation with him or with her, is, who are you seeking guidance from? Is it God first? Is it your family members first? Is it your friends first? Is it your coworkers first? Is it just complete strangers because that thing is on your mind and now you need to talk about it? So who are you seeking guidance from? And not only who are you seeking guidance from, who are you seeking guidance first from? Because if we have a tendency to seek guidance from the wrong people, that's usually what sticks with us first. So if you can reach out to God first, get into your quiet space, into your prayer closet, and ask the questions that you need to be answered, again, using specificity, then you can have a better life. You can have a better marriage, a more connected marriage. And let me take it to this. How often are you and your spouse praying together as well as separately about one another. The things that you can see are hurting your spouse, the weight that he is carrying, right? Just some of the goals and aspirations that he wants to attain. Are you praying for all of those things? Are you praying for what you want your family life to look like? What you even want your marriage to look like? What you want y'all finances to look like? What you want y'all physiques to look like? What you want y'all mental to look like? Are you praying for any and all of those things? And if not, I highly recommend that you do that, because when I'm helping my clients, we talk about God. So if you are looking to work with me outside of Love Restored, then absolutely it is a thing. But know that God is an integral part of my coaching, because it's worked for me. It's also worked for my clients. And this is something that I tell them to do, or I instruct them to do, like as the homework. Because once they sit down and give themselves time to think, where they can get this stuff out, they're doing a brain dump, pen to paper, it makes a huge difference in how they perceive what's actually happening in their life. It shifts their perspective, it shifts their mindset. And because now they're taking the time to do this introspective work, now there's a shift in their marriage or in the relationship for the positive. I also talk about it in the book, but I want to ask you here, why do we have, and why do you have a tendency to put God last on your list, or put him on the back burner until you need him? And I know some of the reasons. I want to know your reason. Do you know your reason? But I'll tell you one that is something that most of us don't think about, which is because you cannot see him. Because I can talk to my friends, I can see them. I can talk to my coworkers, I can see them. I can talk to my family members, I can see them. Because you can't see him. But the more that you speak to God, the more miracles you will see to unfold in your life and the people's lives around you. The more connected you are with God, the more connected he is with you, right? So we have a tendency to put him on the back burner until we need him, because we can't see him. But then there's that belief that God is real. Oh, I heard about prayer. So if I start praying, then potentially, right? I could potentially have my prayers answered. But then you have to look at it this way. For any relationship to mature and nurture, you have to put time, energy, and effort into it. And the time, energy, and effort for God is via prayer, is via studying his word. So when the enemy comes, which he is in the form of a lot of things, just leave that there. But when the enemy comes, you are able to use your sword, which is the Bible, because now you know the word. And you also, because you have been praying, I'll finish the statement. Because you have been praying, you have received answers. You have witnessed miracles by you just being faithful. And there is a scripture in the Bible, and I cannot remember exactly where it's at this moment, but it basically says that there are only things, there are things that can only be answered through fasting and praying. So have you brought in fasting as well? Fasting and prayer to get the answer that you are seeking. Because God should be our first source of guidance and inspiration, and definitely not the last. So I want to read this to you, some scriptures that I have inside of the book. And It specifically talks about what I was just saying. We have a tendency to put God on the back burner until we need him, until there is no one, and then we turn to God. In fact, God should be the very first person that we turn to. And I want to quote a few scriptures to you. So the first one is Psalms 25:5. This is from the New King James Version. Lead me in thy truth and teach me, for thou art the God of my salvation. On thee do I wait all day. Second one, Proverbs 10:17. He is the way of life that keepeth instruction, but he that refuseth reproof erreth. Psalms 32:6-8. So 6. For this shall every one that is godly pray unto thee in time when thou mayest be found. Surely in the floods of great waters they shall not come nigh unto him. Verse 7. Thou art my hiding place. Thou shalt preserve me from trouble. Thou shalt compass me about with songs of deliverance. Shalah. Verse 8. I will instruct thee and teach thee in the way which thou shalt go. I will guide thee with mine eye. If you got nothing else, you need to hear number 8 again. I will instruct thee and teach thee in the way which thou shalt go. I will guide thee with mine eye. These are powerful scriptures because they have me focus on who I should be praying to and who I should be seeking guidance from, which is from the Lord above, which I highly encourage you to do the exact same thing. Because again, once we start seeking guidance from other people, and it's not to say that everybody's guidance is going to be wrong. However, why wouldn't you want to go to the source, to the person, to the entity, to God, who can actually help you get the answers that you are trying to achieve? Now we have a station break. And now we have a station break. So I am Marshaun Olaniyan. You are watching Love Restore on KCCR The Brownstone. If you have yet to download the apps on all of your smart devices, then I want you to go ahead and make sure that you do that, because then you'll be able to keep up with all of the personalities that are here on KCCR The Brownstone. You'll be able to check out brownstoneworldwide.com. Go and look at the spices, the blends, all of the other personalities, the magazine, and just be able to keep up with the community, because we are telling our narrative, our way here on KCCR The Brownstone. So if you have yet to do any of that, then absolutely go ahead and do that. If you are looking to connect with me outside of Love Restored and KCCR The Brownstone, then follow me on marshauno.com, where you can find my products, my services, email me, sign up for a coaching conversation. It is all there in one place, and that is MARSHAUNO, marshauno.com. Go ahead and reach out to me there. And then also, if you have yet to pick up your copy of Reignite Your Relationship by 7X, then go to bit.ly/reigniting relationships. Again, that's bit.ly/reigniting relationships. And every letter is lowercase in order for you to pick up your own copy, so you too can start to reignite your relationship by 7X. Now, let's jump back into what I wanted to share with you, which is the second part. So I'm going to now give you a few tips to help you get back focused on God and making him more of the head versus the tail, right? So the first one is pray, 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 and pray some more. When you're praying, I want you to be very specific in your prayers and pray about everything. It does not matter how minute it is to you. Pray and seek guidance from the Lord up above. He is the only one who can help you get in the right state of mind. Think about this. Once you start talking to your family and friends about a particular issue, most of the time they lead you toward the negative or down a path of destruction. It is not usually the help that you need, which is what I was going to lean toward earlier. It's not to say that every single one of your family members want to see you fail, and subconsciously they don't want to see you fail at all. They are trying to protect you from failure, especially some of the things that are coming to the surface from themselves. So if you're going to a person that's always talking about you need to get divorced, why you staying there, I wouldn't take that, and all of the negativity that you hear nowadays, that's not the person that you need to go to, because a lot of time that person, they don't mean you any harm per se, but they are giving you harmful things to think about, because they're not just not giving you the best advice, because they're giving you their own experiences versus stepping away from their feelings about a particular topic and then being a neutral party. Most people are not neutral parties when they're giving you their feedback, because we all had experiences, whether positive or negative. And that's even for myself. I notice whenever I am speaking with the client and I'm like, do X, Y, and Z, or whatever the thing is. And they're like, well, I don't know about that, because the last time I did that, blah, 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 right? It's true. Your experiences matter. However, comma, if you're seeking guidance from someone who has either more experience or has more training, more schooling, more something, and you feel that you can go to them for guidance, you want it to be from a neutral party, not somebody that is on your side, not somebody that is on your spouse side, somebody that is literally in the middle. I'm going to tell you when you wrong. I'm going to tell you when your spouse is wrong. And so I'm not on either one of y'all side. I'm listening to the facts, based off of the facts and some of your backstory, right? If I know some of your backstory, based off of the things that I actually know, because I wasn't there for that particular incident, for that particular argument, here's what I know. And then we go off of that. Here's what I know. So I make it wholeheartedly. I'm not taking your side just because you're a woman. I'm not taking your side just because you're my friend. When I coach my clients, who are some of my friends, right? When I actually, everybody's paying, right? So just make sure that's clear. So when I talk to you as your coach, when I coach my clients, I'm not trying to be your friend in that moment. I'm listening strictly to the facts that you are presenting to me, and then giving you my professional opinion. I am consciously keeping my own experiences out of it, because just because something happened to me does not mean it's going to play that way for you. Right? Does that make sense? Perfect. Pray, 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 and pray some more. Go to God first to get the guidance, the instructions, because as I read earlier, right, I will instruct thee and teach thee in the way which thou shalt go. Your friends don't have that power. Your family don't have that power. Your co-workers are definitely not strangers. Nobody has that power but God. He's going to instruct you and lead you in the way that you need to go. So why not go and get the correct instructions the first time? So lean not on your own understanding. Don't do it. Because some of the things that God be having us doing be seeming crazy to us. And then all of a sudden, all of the pieces of the puzzle add up together. I digress. Pray. Number 2, prayer makes you feel better, but I want you to, when you are thinking about getting closer to God, to attend worship services. And the reason why you're going to do that is because there is something about being with other worshipers. And I feel the Holy Spirit amongst us, specifically when I go. When I have an issue, I pray about it in the church, and then I leave it there at the altar with God. And when I do that, I walk away feeling as though God has heard my plea and has taken it from me. All my stress and tension has disappeared. And I want to know, is that something that you have felt yourself? Because whenever I do this, literally my tension just melts away. I walk away feeling free. I walk away feeling like I have asked for what I need, and now I am waiting for the answer. So leave it at the altar. Go and lay your burdens down there, because the fight is not your own. And because the fight is not your own, why are you trying to fight the battle? Not your battle to fight. You give it to God, release that. And guess what? Things will work out, but you got to get out the way. And that's a lot of our issue. A lot of the things that we keep experiencing in life is because we keep getting in the way. The third thing is to focus on God's voice, right? This is where you need to get the most focus. I brought this up earlier. You are sitting there in your quiet room or in your prayer closet or in service with your eyes closed, or maybe they're open, but you are very relaxed. You entered into a very tense situation and you need to get some things off your chest. But guess what? Then you prayed, Lord, help me. Please just help me. And at the end of your prayer, you breathe a sigh of relief. When you are silent and quiet, you can hear God's voice. You can understand his guidance. And many of us are so distracted in this busy world that we cannot hear God's voice, definitely not his instructions. It's just too busy. So you got to get quiet and focus on God's voice. The fourth way to get more focus back on God is to release. You got to release those burdens to God, right? You will feel relieved and as a weight lifted off your shoulders, as I just mentioned. Have you ever wondered why you feel so much lighter when you do that? All of that dead weight has been removed from yourself and laid down for God to take over. It makes you feel so much better. You see, you are supposed to bring your burdens to God. Bring your burdens to him and leave them in his hands. Unfortunately, we believe that we have to fight the battle. You must remember that the battle is not yours. Even right now, in your relationship, this is not your battle. It's not. You feel so much lighter when you take the burdens to God. Finally, how to get focused back on God is to remember that God's timing is not your timing. It's just not. I know that we get a little sad, we get a little frustrated. We're waiting. When is it my turn? But the timing is not yours. The timing that we have is not the timing of God. It's just not. We're looking at days, hours, days, weeks, months, years. Our time is not God's time, right? He created everything in 6 days and rested on the seventh, but it don't say 24 hours. So our time is not God's time. So just because you're asking for something does not mean it's going to be released or revealed to you in 2 weeks. It's not going to give you a time, but you have to be willing to ask the questions and get the answers that you are seeking. And guess what? Slowing down enough to say, I did not hear this answer yet. So I cannot take action on it yet because I did not receive my instructions. He did not lead me. He did not guide me toward a particular person or toward a particular scripture. So I have to be willing to slow down. You got to be willing to slow down and hear God's small, still voice. And remember that God's timing is always perfect. We always feel like we want to rush things, which usually gets us into trouble when we try to take things into our own hands. I want you to focus on God. Take your burdens to God. Pray about everything you do. When you do pray, make sure your prayers are very, very detailed. You must get every area of your life in order. Your spirituality is no different because when one thing is out of line, most things are out of line. If your emotional state is out of order, your physical and spiritual states are usually out of order as well. Most things are in disarray. You must get everything back into alignment. So if you need to get closer to God, like most of us do, then set aside some time to start reading your Bible. Set aside some time to start listening to some inspirational messages on YouTube, Google them, or on Vimeo. It could even be your local TV station, your local Sunday station. Find a body of worshipers that aligns with you so you can get spiritually fed around other believers so you don't have to feel like you're carrying all of this weight that's unnecessary about yourself, about your marriage, about your children, about your career. It could be about specifically about your coworkers or your manager, boss, whatever the thing is. If we learn to keep God first in our life, in our relationships and marriages, then a lot of the turmoil that we go through would disappear. But so many of us are trying to do it ourselves that we're losing the battle. We're losing even the war. We're not winning at either one because we're trying to do it ourselves instead of get the actual guidance that we need from God, our Father. I thank you so much for listening to me, from being here, taking this 30 minutes out of your busy day to stay here with me, to listen to what I have to say, but then also to start taking action on the things that you need to do to reignite the relationship, reignite your relationship by 7x, by taking the steps and the things that you need to improve upon in your own relationship. Because if you've been following this series, you cannot say that you don't have the tools. Can't say that any longer. It's all about what you do with the information that you learned here. It's no longer on anybody else. It's all on you. We have to be and take responsibility for the life that we are creating. And so if you want to improve your life, you have to improve in every area of your life. So now the question is, what are you going to do? And how are you going to do it? If you want some help with me, I coach group. I have a small coaching group of and for Black women only, where we get together weekly, discuss subjects such as God, family, relationships, career, because I need for you to understand exactly who you are, the things that you want, the things that you need. So when it is time for you to get in a relationship, or if you're actually in a relationship, you can understand if this relationship is for you, if this person is for you. What are they actually bringing to the table? What are you bringing to the table, right? We're focusing on you specifically. So if you know you and you got you together, then you will attract if you're not in a relationship, or you'll have to make a decision if this relationship and or marriage is actually for you. My name is Marshaun Olaniyan. I am a shift relationship strategist, and you are watching Love Restored on KCCR, the Brownstone. I am so excited and happy that you decided to come back one more time to get the information that you need in order to move your relationship forward. Again, if you have yet to download the apps on all of your smartphones, then definitely go ahead and do that, because that is how you're going to keep up with KCCR, the Brownstone, and the Brownstone Worldwide, and the blends, the spices, the personalities, everything that we are doing here, because again, we are telling the narrative our way. If you want to reach out to me separately outside of KCC or the Brownstone, you can reach me at marshauno.com. That's marshauno.com. marshauno.com. And finally, you're looking to pick up your copy of Reignite Your Relationship by 7X by Marshaun Olaniyan, me, then go to bit.ly/reigniting relationships. Again, that is bit.ly/reigniting relationships. I love you guys, and there's nothing that you can do about it. I'm Marshaun Olaniyan, and I will see you on the next Love Restored.